Hi, my name is Brooke Loafman, and today I'm going to be doing my nonfiction book talk for my AP Lang class. The book that I read was How the Irish Became White by Nola Ignatieff. A brief summary of the book would be that it explores the forgotten history of the oppression of Irish immigrants in the relation to the treatment of slaves in early colonial America. They were seen as the same class, mostly because they had differing political opinions, differing cultural practices, and most of all differing religions. And this is true of both African Americans at the time as well as the Irish. The book depicts their slow ascent from a non-white other group into the acceptance of English settlers by shedding their uniqueness and culture. Just once again, like they really just conformed, the Irish did, to white culture and to the British Christianity at the time. This was just really accomplished by them becoming the oppressors themselves and really subscribing to white supremacy to fit in with them. What made this such an exciting and impactful read was that the Irish conformed so successfully that most people today don't know they garnered as much maltreatment as African Americans during that time. It's just a really big missing layer that most people don't know about when they're talking about how systems of oppression were set up for African Americans. Their jump to the next class just really hammered in a lot of systematic things that are still around today. This was so impactful mostly because the story was so human. It's like a lot of things that like are still seen today, and it wasn't pretty, and it was pretty gross and a very crass book, but overall the nature of the Irish just really reminded me of the saying of like crabs trying to get out of a bucket. Like they just keep pulling each other down other than like all getting out together. One of the big 12 questions that it really connected to pretty well is, what are the relationships and obligations to other humans, other countries, our environment? I think this book doesn't really delve into the morality more so of what happened, but it does really get into like what they shouldn't have done. Like instead of being like, okay, I see you as someone from my side of the pond, my class, another oppressed person in this society, it was more so like me, like a very selfish nature of the Irish. And getting out of oppression themselves, they kind of lost all obligations to their fellow oppressed and really just fully bled into the obligations that the white settlers thought that they should for their society. This book goes deep into workers' rights as well, and how a capitalist society would breed this infighting and self-serving behavior to reach the so desired upper echelon of power and acceptance of the broader whole. That's something I wasn't really expecting of this book, was how class-centered it was and how much it really focused on how like different economic practices and like systems will affect how people play out like socially and culturally. And that's such an obvious thing that would happen and have like deep effects on, but it's so interesting to see how it like works innately as people. I think that others should read this book, especially because it's something that's often forgotten about when in the discussion of like race and class and systematic oppression in America, because what the Irish were doing is essentially setting the groundwork for what we see as acceptable today. But I'm really not sure how many people my age especially would be interested in this book, but I did really enjoy it. The nuances towards class consciousness and their application to modern day society and policies just was like such a blaring realization how similar it still is today. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope you read it.